Greetings, temporal humans. This is Withdrew, the increasingly less agnostic, cybernetic ghost from the future. Welcome to the 4th episode of Trailer Trash Tiny Terrors. What is grace? Is it something that the faithful are owed? Is it something available, at any cost, to the atheist, the agnostic, or the benign, yet faithless human who simply does not concern him or herself with such matters? In this area I am fully unqualified to offer any meaningful opinion. So, let's see what Vic Hermanson has to say about the issue. Perhaps, somewhere in that vast store of random, useless knowledge he has acquired, he can dredge up an actual conceptual gem. And, perhaps, all Higgs bosons are named Frida, and ride Bangladeshi mopeds.
Hey, Frida, you be careful out there. This is Philly. You ain't in Dhaka no more.
Yeah, that was Frida. I think I'll close the door, since there'll be about 10 to the 23rd of her coming by every few seconds. Let me ask you a question. What is the most profound terror, tiny or otherwise, that anybody who deeply believes in God can face? I have some ideas about that, but I'd like to play Malachi Martin for a few seconds. And, of course, he is more articulate than I could ever possibly be.
Similarly, if you look at the church, between 1965 and 1975, suddenly Catholicity disappeared. Suddenly. Priests left, nuns left, suddenly bizarre ceremonies took place, suddenly every practice like devotion to the Sacred Heart, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, confraternities, sodalities, St. Vincent de Paul work, pilgrimages, benedictions of the Blessed Sacrament, the habit of visiting the Blessed Sacrament, children's first Holy Communion, marriage, abortion, contraception, homosexuality, everything was turned upside down. Suddenly, the reservoir of Catholicism suddenly was sucked out, disappeared. And the only theological way you can look at that, theology, not historical, in the secular sense, is that God withdrew grace. God withdrew grace. Sanctifying grace, without which you can't be Catholic.
Let's hear the operative part of that little statement again.
God withdrew grace. God withdrew grace. Sanctifying grace.
And for a message that critically important, one more time.
God withdrew grace. God withdrew grace. Sanctifying grace.
I guess this show will be a turning point, because I have to take a stand. I can't just be the calm, intellectual, slightly sarcastic voice that I usually am. That's a statement that either is true or it's not true. It's a statement that addresses some real situation in the world, or it doesn't. Now, I've been a member of Mensa. I passed the test to be a part of 999, meaning that I'm able to pass a test that says that I'm more intelligent than 99.9% of everybody alive on Earth. Do you know what that means? It doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean a damn thing. All that matters in the human mind is how well can I live my life? How well can I impact the lives of others? How well can I create a world, or partially create a world, that is just and decent and worth living in? Well, I don't believe that I can do that. I don't believe that anybody can do that without the grace of God. I simply don't. I know what my limitations are. I know that I am lazy, petty, quick to condemn, and often slow to forgive. I know that no matter how hard I try to put together the concepts, the facts surrounding an important situation, I only get part of it, no matter how hard I try. I'm sometimes genuinely terrible at communicating to those people whom I deeply love that I deeply love them. At 17, I was an avowed atheist. I had read my Nietzsche and my Sartre and the other existentialists, and I considered myself a totally logical, totally rational atheist moving through the world as an atheist does. By 25, I had been an ER and ICU nurse for several years, and I had seen at that point probably 500 people die. I had talked to people as they died. I had talked to families after these people died, and my atheism had definitely cracked a long time ago. I knew, after talking to several people with NDEs, that something happened after they died. By the time I was 28, I wanted to be a Jew. I loved then, and still love, the theology of Judaism. I love the emphasis on learning. I love the emphasis on family. But I never became a Jew because it is so very hard to do, especially when you're trying to maintain a marriage with a woman who does not want to be a Jew at all. In my early 30s, I began to understand that my long sojourn away from Christ, from Jesus, was coming to an end, and I've felt that call again. Since then, I have been a struggling Catholic with a complete willingness to listen to any theological argument that anybody wants to make to me. I understand that my deep belief in God cannot be proven, nor can it be disproven. But it is, of course, something that I choose. But in choosing that, I do have the hope, at least, that the grace of God exists on earth, because I certainly don't have whatever it takes to build an optimal life for myself, for my children, for those whom I love, for my wife, for anyone. I need the grace of God. As Hazel says in Cannery Row, after failing abysmally to be President of the United States, "I just ain't got the poop, Mac." I know there will be many who disagree with me, and that's as it should be, and I don't mind. But I don't think any of us, not a single one, has the poop. That's my view. I place morality in the same category as I place gravity. Gravity is an impacting force on the universe. It changes things. Now, you're going to argue that it's not an actual force, it's a pseudo-force. It doesn't matter. If you put two planets within several million kilometers of each other, they will have a gravitational influence on each other. And it seems like all that's necessary is mass. Gravity needs mass. Mass, it seems, requires the Higgs boson. Morality is also a force that can only exist, I believe, in the presence of God and God's grace. Gravity functions the way it does, whether or not you believe at all in the Higgs boson. Morality functions the way it does, whether or not you believe in God at all. So, just what if grace is a fundamental force in the universe, and it falls upon us all, whether we wish it to or not? What happens when that grace is withdrawn? As Father Malachi Martin speculated, I believe that would result in a universe every bit as chaotic as a universe where suddenly the Higgs boson, for some reason, chose not to function any further. This has been a different Trailer Trash Tiny Terror. Yes, I told you it would be. But I think what I'm talking about is more frightening, more horrifying than anything else I've ever talked about on the show. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the Cross of Karl, which is a book that has essentially been banned from 1931. Carl is a soldier, a German soldier, who is injured so badly that he is brought to a German rendering plant to be turned into fats and carbon black, various types of bone meal. Germany denies that this happened. The rest of the world, for the most part, says it is propaganda. But I don't believe it was. I believe it actually happened. That's a horror. But that's not a horror anywhere as intense and as damaging as if the grace of God is removed. Sorry for such a depressing downer show this week, but this is Trailer Trash Terrors, and sometimes we have to delve into the most terrible possibilities of all. Thanks. I'll see you again soon.
Vic Hermanson, I never assigned a title to this episode. I think I'll call it Grace and the Higgs Boson. Say hello to Frida for me if you see her again anytime soon. Oh, since she arrives every 10 to the negative 23rd seconds, I guess it won't be long.